Hey everybody, how's it going? It is Tech Tuesday, and I bet you're wondering why we're showing old Goldie. Well, Goldie is for sale. So if you guys would like to purchase Goldie, please email Ernie at shocktherapist.com. But let's forget about that right now, okay? Like I said, it's Tech Tuesday, and do we have a super cool product that we are gonna release to you. Also, we're gonna do a slight race recap, but we're gonna do a full one on Throw It Out There Thursday. But in order to drop this brand new product that we were talking about, we gotta go over to Justin Smith.
Thank you, Steve. That was the most excellent intro ever.
Had to bring the energy.
I don't think I can top it at all. There was a lot of energy. You're bringing it big. Thank you guys for entertaining our little mess of a feed today. Also, we've been gone. Really apologize a little bit. Vacation, couple races, couple of things kind of put off all of our feeds, but we're back. We've got a schedule coming up for the next 2 months that shouldn't be interrupted. Today is Tech Tuesday. We've been getting away from our tech just a little bit. So we're gonna go back and get a little bit techie on our product drop, explain a little bit about it and why it works so well from a geometry standpoint. But before I go there, we've been getting a lot of calls about what happened over the weekend at the Silver State 300 race. So I'm going to move you over sideways. Here is our race car. Unfortunately, our race car is busted up again. After we fixed it from the cow, we now have to fix it from a car wreck. Here's the yeah, no cows in this race, although we were warned about 1,000 times from everybody that walked up, don't hit the cow. But we started the race just fine, doing well, lots of dust, working our way through it, and got to some straightaways at about 35 miles or so, and we were trying to catch the guy ahead of us. If you've ever done any of this racing, then you understand dust. It sucks. If you've never done any of this racing, I'll describe it like you've never seen this before. Basically, you're looking at brown, you can't see past the hood of the car, and your navigator is telling you it's straight or left or right, and you're trying to keep it on the course. You can't see anything else. But in this case, we're in a straightaway. GPS says it's perfectly straight, so we had it pinned. We were in the 90-mile-an-hour range when the dust completely blind went away, and there's a car completely stopped in the course right in front of us. Capped the brakes for a millisecond, and the computer system in the car told us that we were doing 72 miles an hour when we actually hit the other car. Rear-ended it, came up, smacked it, cleared pretty much all the tire carriers, rear arm, wheel, everything else that was on the back of that car. We cleaned it right off, ended up flying over the car, barrel rolled the car a couple times. We're fine. Car's hurt. We're going to go back and repair it again. We'll have it out in another race or two, so don't you worry. We're going to have a full race report with other things that happened during that race, not necessarily with us. Also, Ernie and Mitch in the stock car finished fourth, 12 seconds away from third, and and that's with a broken rear caliper on the car, so they kicked ass. Good job, Mitch, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, killed it. Now, in that race, there was a couple other wrecks that were also dust related, and there's going to be some rule changes and some other things in the racing organization to try and make things safer for all the drivers coming, and we'll go over that a little bit on Thursday. We'll also have some of the drivers that had wrecks on the feed on Thursday, so do not miss that one. It's going to be good. Mitch.
EXP Realtor said thanks for the loaner trailing arm for AG Motorsports at the Silver State 300.
Right on, man. We're excited to give it to you. You guys, anywhere at the races, if you see our trucks and you need help in any way, you come straight to us and we will take care of it. I'm happy to help you with the trailing arm. Thanks for reaching out. Glad we could help. Yeah, Mitch.
Cody wants to know what hurt worse, to hit a cow or a race car?
Cody, cows are softer. Let me just tell you. So the cow didn't even feel that sucker. The rolling and hitting the ground hurt. Hitting a car, way worse. Way worse. So I'm actually a little bit sore. On the cow thing, not even sore one bit. I got sore neck and arms and ribs and all kinds of good stuff. My brother, same. And that's about it though. Super lucky. You know, we could be dead. Not good, but we're not, which is good, right? Dom.
That is great. Come here, sweetheart.
Yep.
Dale Olner, any info on your clutching for your race setup?
Are you asking what we run?
Yes.
I mean, do you want me to give out the secret recipe to the secret
sauce,
everything?
Justin.
I don't know about that.
I didn't think so. That's why he got a fast one.
You know what? Here's what I'll tell you. We pretty much don't hide anything, man. I'm kidding. We'll tell you exactly what we're running. As stock as you can run. We run a 19 front, a 2020 primary. We run a 2020 secondary, and the weights are changed for altitude just to give us the RPM we're looking for. Lowest temps, highest mile an hour, pretty responsive in the corners. We've tried a lot of other stuff, and we continue to test. But that's what we're kind of always going back to. Yes, Dom.
Hey, sweetheart.
So Dom, just so everybody knows, Dom's not mic'd. He's just getting close. Everybody likes him up
Sean
in his neck.
Mapes, were the people in the car okay? Well, you're looking at Mr. Driver.
Yep. Okay.
Driver.
And my brother's fine too, so we're fine. But enough of that. We're going to go over all those details, and we'll even show you some more stuff on the car on Thursday. What we really want to tell you about, though, is new product release, and that is tie rod kits for all UTVs. Now, we have pretty much 90% of them covered, and we're bringing out new models every single day, pretty much every week for sure, right, Mitch?
Yeah, there's a couple that we're still working on, but we're getting them up as fast as possible.
Okay, so here's the deal. We're releasing shock therapy tie rod kits for UTVs. Our tie rod kits, we'll go over some of the details on them, are stronger than stock. We are running a proprietary inner joint that we designed and built that is larger than stock, uses the same well, I'll go over it. We'll show you some of that stuff. Larger inner joints and 5/8 rod ends on the outside, but also they come with BSD pin kits. For any vehicle that requires pins, they come with BSDs on any vehicle that doesn't require a pin. So with that in mind, here is a tie rod kit. Now, this tie rod kit, I'm going to walk back over here real quick, compared to stock is night and day. Now, there's a lot of tie rod kits on the market, right, that you guys have to choose from. The thing, though, is about tie rod kits is that they are not all created equal. Some that are on the market do not have high-quality rod ends with Teflon liners. So what happens when you run a cheap rod end on a tie rod is they squeak. They squeak within 500 miles, and you just have to deal with it, or you're buying rod ends constantly. We have the highest quality rod ends made with Teflon liner, which means no squeaking for almost ever. I mean, we run this style of rod end on our race car, and we run it all season without a change. So validation is what we're all about with testing everything we have. So 5/8 rod end, high quality, aluminum tie rod, inner joints that we actually make. So let's take a look at that joint real quick. Here is the factory inner joint. Now this joint is a ball and socket style. It's too stiff for me to move, but you can see the ball that's on the inside of this. That allows this to move up and down in any direction. The weakest point of this is the diameter at the neck down point of this tie rod inner joint. That diameter right there is where these tend to break. Take a look at our design. There's also one other thing that these stock ones have an issue with, is that this folded over outer ring for the press of the ball. This outer ring right here is really thin on the factory system, which after use, the ball bounces back and forth inside the outer cage. So our system, especially sitting next to this, you can see that the outer rim is rolled over, is 2.5 times thicker than this factory unit is. That keeps the ball from rattling inside this joint. Also, the diameter of the neck down portion is much larger. It's larger by 120 thousandths of an inch. That's 1/8 of an inch larger than the factory system. These are threaded to the factory thread, inner and outer. We have multiple joints with different threads that we can change out so that this sits on the rack the way it's supposed to. The geometry of this joint is designed so that the center pivoting point of this joint is exactly the same as stock, and that is very important for geometry reasons and for bump steer. We'll get into that on the board here in just one second. Dom, can you grab me a rag when you get a chance? That stock joint's all greased up. So what you're basically simplifying, if you simplify everything that we're actually doing when it comes to a tie rod kit, we have the strongest inner joint that you could buy because we designed it and built it. Strongest tie rod, which we've proven on all of our race stuff. And these tie rods have been out in for X3s for multiple years with zero issues. The highest quality rod end on the outside, and these come with our BSD pin kits if you choose, because we do have options on the website. If you already have a pin kit, you don't have to buy two when you buy a tie rod kit. You can buy a tie rod kit without it. But all of our tie rod kits come with a pin kit / BSD system, so you can tune all the bump steer out of your factory vehicle. That is standard issue. Pricing, $290, $299. Tie rods are anywhere from $230 to $299. Other manufacturers do not have the best rod ends made that don't squeak, do not have BSD ability to tune out all the bump steer in your factory vehicle, do not have the strongest joint on the inside that we designed and built. So we're looking at 3 massive pluses over any other tie rod kit on the market that are standard issue in ours. Do you guys have any questions before I go to geometry? Dom, Mike.
Andrew Kovarubias, what are your thoughts on an arc style tie rod kit?
I'm not a fan of arc style tie rods because anytime you put a bend in a tie rod like this, that's a weak point because the tie rods are going to be pushed inward and outward in tension and compression, and that basically is the spot it's going to break. That's also why these are seriously large and cast to try and keep that from happening. But the straighter you can make it, the stronger it's going to be, just strictly from a geometry standpoint. Mitch.
Ryan Bartlett says, bet you don't have them for a Yamaha Viking. We do not, but I will bet you the moment I get one, I will make it work and I will have one.
Oh, snap, Ryan Bartlett.
Yeah, he has dropped the challenge.
Damn, dude.
Ryan, why don't you drop off your Viking and we will do it on yours, and we will give those tie rods to you.
Justin, I have a question.
Yes, Steve.
Somebody asked me that this morning. So if we're releasing all of our tie rod kits, do all of the tie rod kits work? So do we have tie rod kits for our XP 1000 racks? So like our race rack, do we have tie rods for it?
Yes, but I'm going to let Mitch talk about that because he has actually done all of the geometry cycling on every vehicle. Before you go into it, Mitch, you guys have to know that every vehicle that we have this tie rod kit for, we have actually checked 5 to 10 of those vehicles with our tie rod kit, cycling them to make sure that we know what their typical toe is, their toe problems are, or bump steer might be, and then come up with a starting point for all of these pin kits so you know where the spacers can start to give you the best setting for every single vehicle. That instruction kit is very inclusive. It has all that information in it. So when you buy this tie rod kit, you can have a starting point that we've actually done and cycled on all these vehicles in advance. Mitch,
Yep.
on aftermarket racks and tie
So
rods.
your question, Steve, was do they fit our rack too? Yeah.
sir.
So the biggest part of that was to obviously get it to adapt to the stock rack first. The thing that's cool about our rack is you just thread the clevis into the end and then you attach it to the rod end on the race rack. Same length tie rod, none of that stuff changes. The cycling side of it is still the same as far as what your starting point measurements would be for your BSD pin kit. But short and sweet, yes, they do adapt to our race rack for every model that we have a race rack for.
Because our race rack clevis that comes with the race rack threads right into this tie rod.
Correct, yeah,
Right.
it's 5/8 on the stock joint that goes to the stock rack and 5/8 on our clevis that adapts to the race rack too.
Yes, so now all of a sudden our race rack that we sell without tie rods
Now has tie rods.
now has a tie rod option. So
How about
you can,
that, Ryan Bartlett?
So yes, you can buy race racks with tie rods from us now. This is one of the reasons why it's been so long that we didn't offer that, is because we wanted to come out with tie rods for every vehicle at the same time. Without questions, and I'm going to go into a little bit of the geometry on this. So a couple of the things that are benefits that we've already gone over. We have custom large inner joints. These custom large inner joints are correct when it comes to geometry. What I mean by that is that this joint, the center pivot of this system as it goes up and down or forward and backward, is exactly in the same spot width-wise on the rack when our tie rod kit is put in. The reason that's important is because when you get it wider or you get it narrower, it changes the bump steer. Bump steer being toe change through cycle of suspension. So this is exactly the same as factory, so that we're not ruining or causing more bump steer than the factory already has. Now, factory can have a lot, may not have very much, and that's why our BSD kits are adjustable. But 5/8 rod ends, highest quality ever that you can buy. Teflon lined, BSD pin kits are included, geometry correctables in stages. What that means is, let's take a look at this front end drawing really quick. So this is looking at the front of your UTV, and this would be an upper control arm, spindle, and a wheel and a tire cutaway, and the ground, tie rod, and lower control arm. If the inside joint changes in width off that steering rack, for instance, comes in and makes that tie rod longer by moving the joint in, typically when guys sell tie rod kits, they sell it with a inner clevis, and that clevis pushes the joint out wider. What happens when you start moving this is it changes the arc that this tie rod has as the system cycles. If you go wider on the rack joint or inner joint, shorter on the tie rod, then this new geometry comes in quicker on the arc and comes in quicker at the bottom. And what that does, because it's connected to the spindle and it's in the rear, it pulls the tires and tows them out at the bottom, comes back up to ride height, and tows them out at the top when you change inside width. So that's why ours is very important that ours is exactly in the same spot. Steve.
No, Mitch has something, but I have an answer to Mitch's question.
Mitch, what's the question for Steve?
There was let me find it, hang on, sorry. Rock Warrior said, I bet you don't have one for the YXZ, and I will bet you that you're wrong.
I bet we do.
What?
Sprinkle that. Whatever, what was his name?
Rock Warrior 33.
Rock Warrior 33. I bet we do.
So let's just say that one more time. Do we have a tie rod kit for a YXZ, Mitch?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Boom. We have YXZ parts. Yes. What do you have?
So Dom wants me to read this one from Zach Renkopf. It says, hi, I just wanted to say, thanks for all the help at Silver State 300. I was the car y'all seen cartwheel at race mile 39 and pulled up to y'all. Glad we could put on a show for you. That must have been the car that you were telling us.
Dude, okay, I'm gonna go backwards. We're sidetracking our tie rods right now because this is so amazing. Okay, so
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. But it's great. It's really, really good. Okay, so we wrecked, flipped the car over. Best in the Desert came over, helped us flip the car back over. We got the car that we hit, we got them rolling off. And then we're kind of rolling ourselves into the pits, and we got one whole corner of the car cleared off of it, and the thing's all twisted up. So we're going back at 5 miles an hour, and I'm driving with a hat so I can hear my brother, who's sitting on the back of the car to keep the nose up, you know. He's like, you got like in a quarter mile, car's coming, so we want to make sure we're not in their way. We get off the course. They go by. He's like, okay, you're clear for a mile. So we get back on the course for a little bit. Okay, get out of the way. He's just calling where I need to go. And we come up to a fence that I have to go through on the course. And he's like, you're clear for about a mile. Car's way back there. Whoa, he just rolled. And I'm like, nuh-uh. And I turn around and look at him. He's like, he rolled 3, 4 times. He's back on his tires. My brother's giving me a play-by-play of this car coming down the straightaway at 80 miles an hour that rolls, lands on his tires. He's up, he's going, he's driving over to us. I'm like, no way. So I get out of the car and run in the back, and these guys pull up right next to us, and they got a whole left front corner folded underneath the car, and they're driving on a sliding sidewall. Right up to us, who have already completely cleared our part, right? And they get out and try and assess it. It's ruined. And they're just trying to figure out a way to pull that thing up and get it to the next pit. These guys are in a great mood, having already rolled and landed on their tire. It was pretty damn fun to watch. I wish I saw it. My brother saw the whole thing, but all by themselves in the middle of nowhere, they roll it 3 or 4 times, land on the tires, and keep on driving up. So that was pretty cool, for sure. Back to tie rods. Sidetrack. You guys have any questions while we're on that?
Nothing
No?
yet. Nope.
Okay. So, other thing that is very important when it comes to geometry is not only the length being right, especially with the inner joint, but when it comes to rod end height on the spindle. So at the outside, the height of this rod end, how it's mounted vertically on the spindle, is very, very important. Now, our BSD kit, the way it works is all of these spacers you can see in here, if you can actually, are all different thicknesses. These spacers can be mounted on the top and raise the whole pin vertically, changing the geometry and fixing bump steer. So, on our drawing again, if you take the factory location of that outer rod end and you raise it up, I know my drawing is getting to be a mess, but if you raise it, what that does is it causes the tie rod to come in quick on the arc and stay out longer. What that does on a rear steer is it'll pull the tires like this, toe out at the top, and it will tow them in while they're drooped. Height is very important, and typically in most UTVs from the factory, with factory tie rods and everything, that is what the problem is. Typically the width is not the issue, but the height of that tie rod outer joint on the spindle creates bump steer. That bump steer needs to go away because it comes back into the steering system and into the steering wheel as feedback that'll rip the wheel out of your hand depending on where that tire is facing when it hits a bump and where it is through travel. So our tie rod kits through BSD pin kits allow you to adjust the height on the outside, further dialing all the toe out of the system. Right, Mitch?
Correct. Sir.
And Mitch has become an expert, having cycled hundreds of UTVs with our tie rod kits on them, I would say, at least hundreds.
There's probably 500 pages of a yellow notebook in my folder for tie rod stuff of cycling every single car.
Now, we're going to have installation instructions for you. These tie rod kits are already on our website, so you can go there and purchase them, or tell a friend to go there and purchase them. Tell all your friends. But we'll have instructions that show you how to install this as a generic installation, tie rod install on the rack, how to put it on the spindle. But then from an individual standpoint per car, we've got sheets that come with the kit that give you a starting point in height, which spacer to use on your particular UTV to give you the best starting point. And then our instructions will, we also have instructions that show you how to dial it in, how to measure it, how to cycle it, how to adjust it all the way out.
There's 2 different videos on that too, so I don't know if we need to.
What's the difference on those?
That. You have just a normal generic tie rod install video, and then you have the BSD video where it shows you how to cycle it and how to really kind of eliminate all of the bump steer that you have by showing you the numbers and kind of walking you through it. So they're both kind of linked together. You'll see it when it comes out, but I don't know if I wanted to throw that in there for you guys just to be on the lookout for it, but they're both kind of coexist with each other, if you will. So
we're trying to answer all your questions before you have to call us through the videos, basically. And they're pretty involved, so watch them all the way through. Hello, Dom. What do you got?
Do we have any for the Pro R?
Mitch.
We have tie rods for the Pro R. We do not have the BSD pin kit yet for the Pro R.
Explain why we have held off.
It is a bigger diameter in the spindle versus what we already have made right now. So basically, yeah, if you have
that tapered pin is much larger on the Pro R.
Yeah, so like all your other models, this tapered pin is a lot smaller. So you drill out that hole to get it to 3/4 diameter, which is what our pin kit is now.
I'll pull that apart. So
The
basically,
Pro R,
we're drilling this out in the spindle to allow this to go in. Pro R is bigger.
Pro R is already bigger than what we have made for our pin. So what's cool about that though too is the Honda is the same way. So when we make the Pro R pin kit, it's going to adapt to the Honda, and then we will literally have tie rods and
every model
BSD pin kits for every single model.
When is that pin kit coming out? I know you're in the middle of making them.
That is still kind of being developed, so I don't know if I even want to throw a time frame out there because we're going to get blown up for it. But I would say, I would hope at least hopefully in a month and a half, we can have a prototype and start cycling it and get kind of something similar that we have already just for the Pro R and for the Honda too.
Awesome. Steve, what do you got?
Make
something up.
Do you just normally look pretty when you wake up in the morning, Justin?
Steve, that is your question, sir. That has nothing that anybody's ever said on our feed.
I think that's the second time
No,
you asked that.
I literally read that by El Bonbon Humano. He asked that.
I don't know
He really didn't. But
I don't know how to answer that.
El Bonbon Humano wants to know, are the upgraded inner joints sold separately? If yes, can I order now? But he's saying for a Can-Am.
You know what? That's a really good question,
It's a great
Mitch.
question.
We have part numbers for just the joints individually, so I think we're going to put them on the website like that, to where you can buy individual parts.
So they're not. The joint is not on the site by itself yet.
Yeah.
But we could do that.
We definitely can. So if you guys want that, we can definitely do that. We were actually talking about that this morning, so I think it's a good idea.
Okay, give us one day. We'll put them on the site today, and it'll be up tomorrow.
Yeah. As far as a Can-Am though, they will not adapt to a Can-Am because the Can-Am already has threads that come off the center link on the stock rack, which adapts to, I believe it's M14 thread.
And we don't have an M14 joint.
We do not have an M14 joint, but we do have tie rods for the Can-Am that adapt to the M14 threaded part off the center link.
So we have a solution for him. It's just not a joint by itself.
Correct.
Well,
we do have a solution actually. A race rack.
We have a race rack with a tie rod and bump steer delete kit.
It's just a $2,000
Which you
solution.
can find on www.shocktherapyusa.com.
Look at you, selfish plug. Yes, Don.
Ryan Bailey, Mitch, is really wanting to know about the KRX stuff.
KRX stuff, what?
Straps and tie rods.
Straps are on my list for next week. I will have those done next week, so you guys can get those. What else? The tie rod kit for them? Tie rod kit is already done for it. Those are on the website as well, so already done. The straps are being, excuse my language, but a total pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie to you guys. They're a little tricky. So I know I've said a couple months before, but I'm running into some issues, but I will have that done for you guys by next week.
Thank you, Mitch. Steve?
Scout Racing _3. I already have springs from you. How do I order the revalve? Well, you would call into the shop at 623-217-4959 and set up an appointment.
It's actually pretty straightforward. The guys on the phone are going to go over all the details for you. You get to pick a scheduled date, and all of our shock work is same-day turnaround with your appointment. So you don't have to worry about having your car down for very long, right, Steve? Yeah. So one more thing on the board of magical geometry that we haven't covered yet is things that this tie rod fixes. So aftermarket arms. One thing that we get a lot of questions about is what creates the bump steer? Well, a lot of things create it, and really you can be off just a little bit in so many different places that it causes that. We have found that just 30 thousandths of an inch, a spark plug gap of height on a tie rod installation height can affect the bump steer by 1/2 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, depending on the model, somewhere in that range. So think about that. 30 thousandths of an inch on the control arm location, on the rack location, on the overall width of the tie rod, 30 thousandths of an inch of the upper and lower ball joint position will change bump steer in a large way. So when it comes to aftermarket arms, the second you've got anyone's aftermarket, it doesn't matter how high quality the arm is. You can be off just a little bit and create more bump. So for instance, if you guys are on the East Coast and you're doing a forward mounted or a forward set, a +1 or a +2 forward mounted control arm set where you're pushing the tire forward 1 or 2 inches, the opportunities in that whole system to screw it up by 30 thousandths of an inch are basically 100%. You're going to guarantee yourself some geometry issues when you do that. So that system with our tie rod, you can tune all the bump steer out of it. That bump steer, especially with 38, 40, 42 inch tires, really rips racks out of a car and takes the wheel out of your hands. You can eliminate a ton of that with our tie rod kit. Dom?
Chuck Upson, will you make tie rods for the XX 2021?
Mitch?
XX and Commander are going to be a thing as well. That is very similar to our Can-Am BSD, where you have the 3 spacers that you just move it inside the double shear point. The difference is they're smaller. It's a smaller space that the rod end sits inside the spindle, so we just have to make new spacers for it. But that is on the list. We are making them for that.
So like right after your KRX limit straps?
Yep.
Yes. I've seen the list. It exists.
It's
It's a big list, but it's coming. So aftermarket arms are like an absolute must for you to have a tie rod kit with BSD ability to tune all the bump steer out. Factory geometry is something we find all the time, and it varies from vehicle to vehicle. On Can-Ams, it's typically the bracket and pinion height in the factory frame. The higher it goes, the more toe. The lower it goes, the more toe. Somewhere in the middle is a happy medium. And it just depends on the production run of frames what we see. Some Can-Ams have 0 bump steer. Some have 1.5 to 2 inches. Some have 4 or 5 inches. So that's why we have adjustment. That factory stuff, like, you know, I talk about Can-Am, but, you know, Polaris is not immune to the same problem, right? Mitch, you've seen what kind of numbers in a Ranger and a Turbo S, for instance.
Still almost 4 inches of bump steer in a Turbo S, easy.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool you say that, because we did cycle a Ranger, and our tie rods do fit that as well. But it's all over the place, honestly. I mean, you can go from 1.5 to 3 inches, all the way up to 4.5 inches.
And well, so that begs the question, right? What's too much? Well, anything is too much, but we like to see you get your adjustments down to 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch a bump or less through full cycle. If you can do it, most of our starting points on our initial notes for these kits will get you under 1/2 of an inch of bump steer for a start. But you should check it at all times. So factory geometry, we're overcoming that issue, and also they are stronger. Both the tie rod itself, the inner joint is much stronger, and the rod end on the outside is much stronger than the factory one. I'll point that out really quick, and you can see it plain as day. Here is a factory ball joint, and here is our pin kit. You can see the diameter difference is massive. What you can't see is that this pin kit gets narrow inside of this boot, and it's even narrower than the lower portion of the pin. So much larger in diameter, high grade hardware, so you don't have any issues with shearing pins on the outside at all. In short, which that wasn't very short, our tie rod kits are awesome. Pretty much covers every single weak spot that anyone's ever seen in racing or play, and allows you to tune out all the issues that we've all created by bolting on a whole bunch of accessories that don't match everything on your UTV. So you can cure it and make everything more drivable. The reason that we have this Pro R behind us for you to look at with this tie rod kit on the Pro R is because...
Pro XP.
Sorry, Pro XP. See too many of them, and you're right, thank you. But with an aftermarket arm system that's forward mounted, and adapter plate for the portal system, you're asking for a ton of geometry problems. And yes, we ran into it on this vehicle, and yes, we cured it. We cured it by changing the height of this pin kit. And if you take a look from where I'm at, and you take a look in there, we've got a 1/4 inch spacer and a 200,000 spacer to raise this rod end up off of this mount to get that geometry spot on. Mitch, do you remember how much bump is in this after we did all the work?
3/8.
3/8 of an inch. 3/8 of an inch of bump steer from 3 or 4 inches is where it started.
I think this one had like 2 3/4.
Okay,
So
I was off a
somewhere
little bit.
around
2
there,
3/4.
Hey, Dom, where's that on a tape measure?
I was going to say, how many tick marks is that?
Says the guy that can't read tick marks. Little tick marks, big tick marks, right, Dom?
Yep.
Yeah.
After the big number, there's tick marks, little tick marks, baby tick marks, and more tick marks.
Baby tick marks.
Baby tip marks.
Yep.
Dom, thank you for
16th.
taking one for the team. Appreciate that. But I don't have anything else to say when it comes to this stuff. If you guys have any questions, then here's your chance. Maybe we do a rapid fire. What do you think?
Well, as we do that, why don't we show Goldie and all the cool things that are on Goldie, because it is for sale, Justin.
Well, I think we can go into a ton of those details on Thursday since we'll have it with us.
We're going to have it with us on Thursday as well?
Well, I think we should. But
Okay.
you guys, if you're looking for a UTV, since you can't buy one at the dealership right now, here is one that's solid as hell because we prepped the crap out of this car. Ernie is pretty much only driven it in the dunes. He is not a big desert guy with this thing. Long travel, all the shock work, comes with the Model Steve next to it for at least a couple minutes when you buy it.
Done.
I mean, that's worth everything right there.
It's worth at least $500.
Price starting at $59.95, and big horsepower, all kinds of stuff on this car. It's too much to list, but we'll go into it on Thursday if you guys want.
I just want to clarify, it's not $59.95, it's $59,999.95.
I see. One
Because
penny,
someone's gonna want
one
60
penny
bucks
under
for
the
this.
number we don't want to say. Dom, what do you got?
Mike Miller is asking, how do you measure the bump steer?
It's
How do
very
you cycle it?
so it's a really good question. We have videos. It's really involved, right? Watch the videos. It's going to answer most of your stuff. I don't even think I can say it quickly. I'll try. I'll try. At ride height, measure your toe. Let's just say it's 0 toe. Jack the vehicle up, droop the tires out, measure the toe again. The difference between the front and the rear measurement from ride height to droop is the change in toe. That is not cycling the vehicle all the way up and all the way down. That's the cheating way to do it from ride height to droop, where you don't have to take shocks off the car. But that'll give you an idea. Usually that's about 50% of your problem. So if you measure that, it's 70 and 70, 0, and down here it's 68 and 74. It changed by 4 inches, right? Or that's 2.
2 inches. Yeah.
I'm bad with math, but that's a 2-inch change. That means you've got about 4 inches of bump steer because you can double that on the top half as well. So measure ride height, measure droop. That'll give you an idea of the problem. If it's somewhere in the 1/2 inch or less, don't touch it. If it's an inch or more, definitely get bump steer kits to fix it, and our instructions will tell you how to do it. Dom.
Jason Hohenstein is asking, will the Pro XP rack help with bump steer?
Well, it will, because the Pro XP rack is spot on when it comes to geometry. It's exactly right when it comes to what that vehicle needs. So any issues that you had in your other rack are gone when it comes to geometry, so it will help. Also, it's a more solid system, so you're not going to get a lot of the feedback that's in the stock rack, so it can also help with feedback issues, not bump steer, but feedback. Steve.
Just to clarify, we do not have a rack for a Pro XP, but it is coming. Is that correct, Justin?
Actually, I'm going to let you say that, Steve, while I'm looking at this.
I'll just answer like Justin would. We're a couple months away.
Oh.
It'll be here before you know it.
So Oklahoma, we were talking about whether to promote or not. So Oklahoma, we would like to come out there and do shocks. We need you guys to give us a call and set up appointments to do the shocks. We're judging the amount of appointments to make it worth it or not. So if you guys, if we get 20 or 30 appointments booked in advance, then yes, we're going to go out to Oklahoma, Oklahoma, and do all the work. Right now, we don't have very many, so you guys need to call and get booked for us to go. In about 2 or 3 weeks, if we don't have enough, then we'll let you know we're not going. Mitch.
Preston wants to know anything coming out for the new Kids Razor 200 EFI.
You can give us the list, can't you, Mitch?
Yes, I can.
What is the list so far?
So far, we have radius rods, we have front sway bar links, we have rear sway bar links, we have our full tie rod kit for this car as well, which is actually pretty cool.
You were able to take 2 inches of bump steer and turn it into 3/8, right?
That one, 5/8.
5/8.
I got it to 5/8 right now. We might still play with it a little bit, see how much more we can get out of it, but they're basically little link bodies for the tie rods. They're pretty cool.
The tie rods are bigger than the control arm.
Exactly, yep. And then we are going to have a full shock package for that too, hopefully.
Okay, so all this stuff is in development right now. We've got them on Ernie's 200s. We'll be putting them on the website as soon as we're done testing. It's going to be another month or 2.
Yeah. So short and sweet, yes, we do have some cool stuff for that car.
Yes, awesome. You checking tick marks, Dom? All right,
This is-
show us your tick marks.
This is for me, the stupid kind, that they're actually labeled.
Oh, it gives you the number for you. Excellent.
I'm super smart.
16 sixteenths is what?
Huh?
16 sixteenths is what?
Yeah, an inch.
There you go. See,
Woo,
you know
look
it.
at him.
See,
He's
he
pretty
knows
quick.
it. He's lying.
I like
question.
that. Yeah.
Does the 22 Can-Am have bump steer issues?
Yes. Yes. All years of Can-Am do, and all years of Can-Am don't. The problem is that there's multiple production runs for chassis throughout the year, typically like 3 or 4 production runs. So it just depends on the production run whether it's going to have a problem or not. All need to be checked. What we've seen is about 75 or 80% of them have an issue and maybe 20% don't. So the answer is yes, you need to check it. And we're getting a new roof, by the way, just so you know what all the noise is. They're upstairs doing their job. But you guys, anything else? No more rapid fire?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, since we got a ton of noise upstairs, we're going to get out of here. I think it's very easy for me to go like this and go, Steve, take us out.
Guys, if you're looking to buy Goldie, email Ernie at shocktherapist.com, or if you're looking to book for Jay, Oklahoma, call 623-217-4959, or if you want to buy the new tie rod kit, go to www.shocktherapyusa.com.